After church today, we will be having the first meeting for what I have titled the Transformation and Pastor Support Group, or team, or committee. Pick whatever name makes you feel most welcome, because anyone is welcome to participate. Yes, there were specific people asked to make sure that each age group and a variety of people's voices were represented, but everyone, all are welcome to have a voice in this group. Transformation. That's an interesting word. One of my favorite statements that our General Minister and President Sharon Watkins ever said was that we all know that the word transformation is secretly an impressive word for change. And she is right. As the saying goes, no one initially likes change. Change or transformation can create excitement, a makeover, a renovation, a renewal, a transformation. The idea that we are transforming something good into something better or something that is more up to date. But that excitement requires an energy level. An energy level that is hard to muster in an already tired world. And the feelings of excitement, as we know, are often joined quickly with anxiety and other strong emotions. It is hard to change. It can create chaos. And chaos can lead all of us to respond in ways of fear, because change requires us to be vulnerable, willing to fail, and open to what we do not yet know. But there are healthy and even faithful ways to embrace and be a part of the chaos. By keeping clear lines of communication, by being honest about our fears, we can work together in positive and even sometimes fun ways. The Transformation and Pastor Support Group and those who join me today are a way to make sure that everyone is clear and that everyone feels that they have some voice as we talk about the future of this church, our transformations. They are to help all of us, myself included, support one another and communicate with one another to alleviate some of the anxiety and instead bring more focus to the excitement of doing God's work. I mean, most churches today that I've been a part of have some form of anxiety because change is happening so rapidly around us, especially in our high-tech world. And as we've discussed in several sermons, these anxieties usually come from human standards, not godly standards. This church, as we've also discussed previously, has had a few difficult bumps in the road over the past 15 years. And this causes some anxiety. And I do not, please hear me, I do not want to diminish the struggles of these past periods. But the fears and the anxieties from the past periods may be a bump in our road to keep new people from being able to connect to the church now. It is time to let some of the past drama go, because I can promise you I'm going to bring in some new drama. And we're going to have a fun time bringing in that new drama. Because past anxieties can get in the way of allowing God's Spirit to move us in new, exciting, and wonderful ventures. And if there are new people who enter our doors, or even people outside of our doors that we are talking to, we want them to be a part of our present and willing to have a voice and engage in our future. In today's scripture, Peter needed to let go of his past drama and redirect to his future. He needed a new morning to sit with Jesus and to find his direction post his denials of Jesus. He needed to find his own resurrection story and a new life in this new reality of a resurrected Jesus. Today's scripture reminds us that Jesus can take whatever failures or anxieties or past problems and turn it around to follow him. He can even find ways to make it even more powerful that we are closer to Jesus. I mean, Peter had denied Jesus 3 times before his execution. And so Jesus asked Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" At the root of everything we are doing every day and every moment, it is this question in a post-resurrection world that remains central to my focus and hopefully to our focus. We are asking the question, do we love Jesus? And if we take a moment to answer yes, we love Jesus, then Jesus says, I have some big task for you. First, we are called to feed the lambs. I could preach several sermons on this task in itself, because each week in my ministry and my life and my call, I work to incorporate children and youth and young adults into what we call corporate worship. Not in ways of tokenism of, oh, look how cute they are, but intentional, real ways. My work at the general church level is to help many others think this way, which is not the norm. Children, young adults, and youth are often treated as a subculture of the church. They are not the first to be called to be embraced. They're too wiggly, they're too noisy, they're running around and going to the back. We don't know what to do with children in our midst, and yet the first thing Jesus says to us to do if we love Jesus is to feed the lambs. Hold on, I got lost on my page. They are to be first. His request to Peter aligns with even my passion to be intentionally intergenerational within all aspects of the church, because that is who we are called to be. The second task is to tend. I find it interesting to note that we do not feed the sheep first. While feeding does come third, I think the concept of tending is a much more challenging and difficult kind of concept than just feeding. To tend means that our character and not just our actions are part of the process of loving Jesus. Tending requires a level of care, attachment, and engagement. We can't just feed and keep our hands clean and stay unattached. We must shepherd the sheep. We must tend. We must not just keep them alive, but be part of their world. The pastor at the church we attended in Ohio said no one wants to actually be a sheep. Sheep are gross, really gross. In other words, this work is not neat, clean, or even popular. It is a call to be the servant of the lowliest, the yuckiest, and the most marginalized in all of God's kingdom. Based on this scripture, these are not small tasks that we are asked. Loving and following Jesus, once again, we are reminded, is not easy. And while I believe it is totally worth it in faithful ways, the standards of our current human society may not be as enticed by Jesus' ending response to Peter. Whether your word for inclusion be that you're hip, cool, groovy, or popular, loving those who are different is not faithful, or is faithful but not popular. Do you know where being uncool leads? Do you know where being faithful leads? It does not lead to the popular megachurch million concept. It leads to death. If you know anything about Peter's death, it isn't pretty. In fact, the only promise that I can make that will help alleviate some of your anxiety or may skyrocket it, I can promise that at some point, Independence Christian Church will die. I can promise at some point the Disciples of Christ denomination will die. I can even promise at some point, Aaron, that we will not be going to Wakanda anymore, even though supposedly that death has been on hospice forever. And while I say this, I want to tell you my response to this statement. Thank goodness. Woohoo! We're all going to die, so can we just let that go? We are going to die, but glorifying God is not going to die. It hasn't died yet. So let's talk about this, because with my family situation at the moment, there is a lot of talk about death. And as the saying goes, everything except death and taxes seems to change. So the question, though, is not helpful when people say, are we going to die? Are you going to die? Is the church going to die? Is this building going to die? What's going to die? That seems to be the popular question everybody seems to ask, but that is the wrong question. The question is, how will we choose to live? How do we choose to live, both as individuals, as a church community, as people of faith who follow Jesus? How do we choose to live? How do we create the best quality of life in whatever situation that God has given to us in this moment? How do we work to love Jesus and to do what Jesus has called us to do in whatever time and whatever moment we have? How do we remember that, yes, it is a few weeks after Easter, but it is still Easter. There is still a resurrected Christ. That we are Easter people who believe in life, and that life is our focus. Jesus faced death and did not win. Resurrection is supposedly what's changed everything. So our fears of death and failure can be put aside. Yes, everything will die. Peter died. The disciples died. Jesus even ascended to heaven, but through Jesus' story, we will continue to worship and love a God who again and again shows us how to live. So let us take a deep breath and remember the sense of peace that Jesus gave his disciples in last week's scripture. Let us have a sense of peace in the midst of chaos, change, and transformation. Let us, like Peter, change the negative parts of our stories and find the positive faith response. I can tell you that some of our new ventures will succeed and others will fail. But failure means we are learning, growing, and being God's people. And while our goal is to think about our future, our goal is not to live in the past or even live in the future. God gives us a sense of peace, and this is the moment right now to transform. Now, we must transform and be willing to change ourselves and others in the moments that we have now, because this is the only moment that we know that we have. I have thought a lot about Stephen Jurek, the death of my friend's 30-year-old cousin in the Brussels attack, the imminent death of my own parents. None of us really know what timing we have. So, in this moment, I want you to think about the question, do you love me? Do you love Jesus? And sit and know right now that you are in the presence of Jesus. Transform, change this moment. Look at the windows. Look at the cross. See the white cloth. Pay attention to the faces that are around you in the pews. Pray for those sharing this moment. Pray for those whose names you don't even maybe know in this room. Really take a moment and a minute and sing and read the words in the hymnal. See the lit candles and remind yourself while they are here. Feel the peace Jesus provides in this place. And remember the ways to be observant and see them when you are in your car or in your home or at your workplace. Then answer the question again and again in each moment of your lives. Do you love Jesus? And if you say yes, It's not about transforming the future. It's about transforming the now. Transforming yourself so that you can transform others. Amen.
Stand, and the words are in the bulletin, but we will sing that 4 times, each verse twice.
Lord, prepare our hearts to receive the morning offering. We are all stewards of what God has entrusted us with, so let us give generously a portion of what we have been blessed with for the upbuilding of God's Word